You're watching Adam the Bull on the BetRivers Network.
Welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by BetRivers. If you're not using the BetRivers app, what are you doing? Bet on everything from football to Major League Baseball, tennis, and a whole lot more, all at BetRivers. Coming up on today's podcast, we'll talk Browns and NFL with former NFL quarterback Shaun King. But we begin right now with the latest news from Berea in Browns camp, where JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, becomes the latest Cleveland Browns breakout star to sign an extension, 3 years, $39 million, $25 million guaranteed. He becomes the sixth highest paid linebacker in the NFL, deservedly so, coming off a Pro Bowl season. JOK was fantastic last year. He had over 100 tackles, made a ton of impact plays, and after a rookie season that was meh and a second season that was bad, he just exploded on the scene in year 3 under the tutelage of Jim Schwartz, and he was outstanding. He earned that contract, and it's great to have him locked in for another 3 years beyond that, and he'll still be able to get another contract probably, assuming he continues to play well and be healthy at 27. Remember, as the team kind of scuffled a little defensively down the stretch, especially in the Houston game in the playoffs, it was JOK was the one guy. I mean, he's really the only guy on that defense that showed up for the playoff game. That really stood out to me, and I think it's a great deal. He played like a top 6 linebacker last year, and that's how he gets paid. So great deal for the Browns, great deal for JOK. Excellent news. On the other side of things, obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Mike Hall Jr., the alleged incident with his fiancée. Obviously, we all know what's been reported to this point. It is despicable. Do we know for sure? It's a report. It's alleged. We don't know for sure at this point what exactly happened. If it's true what he's been accused of, I think the Browns will cut him, but I'm not sure. And again, I've said this time and time again. In other walks of life, people do bad things and they keep their jobs. We certainly see it in politics. And in the NFL, if you can play, if you're a high pick, teams will give you opportunity after opportunity. I think if Mike Hall was a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, a rookie free agent, he'd be cut right now. He'd be out of here. But they drafted him in the 2nd round. He was the first pick they had in this draft. There were some red flags at draft time. Nothing of this nature that we know of, but it's pretty ugly what's been described. But and I was shocked that the Browns had him in camp practicing today. Frankly, it's a really bad look. I would have had him to the side until at least we know more. Or not we, but they. Maybe they know something we don't know, and they feel like he's going to be cleared of this here. Who knows? But the information we have right now looks pretty ugly. And I'm very surprised that Mike Hall was practicing with the team. So get more on that as time goes by. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, former NFL quarterback Shaun King. He joins me next in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by BetRivers. All right, welcome back to the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by BetRivers. And we're talking now with former NFL quarterback Shaun King. Shaun, how are you? Thanks for joining me.
I'm good. Thanks for having me, man. Football's almost here. I can smell the grass. I'm not going to eat it like a certain former LSU coach, but I can smell it, and it smells great.
Do you ever wake up this time of the year and imagine you're still playing, or is that too far gone at this point?
I think every former quarterback that was too old to be actually playing in this era where they're just giving money away wakes up every morning and wonders how my life would be different if I was playing currently.
I mean, Chase Daniels started like 5 games. I think he's made like $60 million in his career.
Dude, it's unbelievable. Hat tip to those guys that got it done, man. The money. I always tell this for context. My first year as the full-time starter, my second year in the NFL, we went 10-6, went to the playoffs. That offseason after that, they decided to bring in Brad Johnson. They gave Brad Johnson a 5-year, $25 million deal. And that was like 2001. Compare that to what these guys are getting now.
Oh, my God. Even average quarterbacks are getting more than that per year.
Gardner Minshew got that on a 2-year deal to be the backup here in Las Vegas.
I know. It is amazing. Oh, okay. Well, I want to talk some Browns with you, but you just said he's going to be the backup. Is that definite, or you just think you think that's the way it's trending, that he'll be
The
the backup?
reports are that Coach Pierce is going to make a decision after this next preseason game. But,
Yeah.
I mean, in any battle that's close like that, you normally would go with the drafted incumbent.
Right.
Because Minshew's been a backup. Obviously, last year when Anthony Richardson got hurt, he filled in. He's excelled at that role. So I think if it's a tight battle, you give Aiden O'Connell a nod.
Antonio Pierce obviously did a great job as the interim coach last year, and then he gets the full-time opportunity. What do you think of him as a coach? How well did you know him personally?
Really well. Yeah. I think he's doing an outstanding job. The one thing I hope is that he gets a fair opportunity to completely mold the team in his image. You got to think he really inherited Josh McDaniels' team. And with the salary cap, it's not like the NCAA now. You can hit the transfer portal and overhaul the whole roster. Like, I'm sure there's some components on that roster that he'd like to upgrade, and that takes time. They're in a tough division. Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. So I think he's the right guy for the job. I just hope he gets the grace and the patience it takes to, develop a consistent winner. I always point to the Steelers and Mike Tomlin. Like, people say what they want, but they're the only organization that has the patience to give the right guy time to do it the right way.
Speaking of patience, Sean, there is a percentage of the fan base here in Cleveland that is running out of patience with Deshaun Watson. When the Browns traded for him 2 years ago, I can only speak for myself. Some fans were happy, some were not. For me personally, I was super excited. I was actually still doing radio then. I was on the air live, and I heard the news, and I went bananas. I said, for the first time ever, the Browns have a true franchise quarterback. Because in Houston, that's what he looked like. He looked like an absolute superstar. In Cleveland, he's been suspended, which we knew was coming. He's been hurt a lot. And when he's played, he hasn't played like the guy we expected to see. Where are you on Deshaun Watson, and do you think he can get back to being the player he was in Houston?
I don't want to pour salt in the wound of the fans in Cleveland, because you guys are extremely passionate, and I applaud. But you can make an argument that Baker Mayfield's career arc looks like it has a higher ceiling than Deshaun Watson's currently. And
boy,
that's a problem. And I think it's going to take, and I hope it happened this offseason, I think it's going to take Deshaun looking in the mirror and identifying his deficiency and where he has been inconsistent. And if I knew Deshaun personally, what I would tell him was, Joe Flacco played 5 games last year. You played 6. Flacco threw for 500 more yards and 6 more touchdown passes and was sacked 9 less times. So I don't look at statistics in a vacuum, but I look at them because they do tell part of the story. And I would tell Deshaun, it shows me that you are not seeing the field clearly. You aren't throwing the ball on time and with anticipation enough of the time. And that's something we got to work on and fix. Yeah. And if he can get that fixed, the talent's always been there. The personnel around him is even better than last year. I know Chubb is still coming back from an injury, but you traded for Jerry Jeudy. I would tell Deshaun, it's amazing how Njoku was invisible when you were the quarterback, and he became an elite tight end as soon as Joe Flacco got into center. Like, there are some things that happened when Flacco became the starter that I think Deshaun can use to be honest with himself about some of the areas he was deficient.
Obviously, what happened with him off the field has been talked about so much, right? The only people that know the exact truth of what happened are he and the women. So I'm not going to try to play investigator here. It's already been investigated a lot. But whether it's self-induced or not, he's had certainly mental hurdles to get over. He was very popular. He had a great reputation. Everybody loved him. Now there's a lot of people, even fans here in Cleveland, that don't like him. And people are bad-mouthing him and all that stuff. When you have stuff going on, obviously you didn't have to deal with a situation like this, but we're all human beings. Sometimes members of the media, sometimes fans forget that players are players. They're great players, but they're also human beings, and everybody's dealing with stuff. When you've had to deal with stuff whatever it may be, even if it's not as serious as this, how hard are those things to get over from a mental standpoint?
I think it varies from person to person. I'm not a sympathetic guy when it comes to professional athletes.
Okay.
And having the light quotient be in your favor, or in this instance, be against you. Like at the end of the day, you're paid very well to be the quarterback of the
That's
Cleveland
right.
Browns. And with that comes the responsibility to perform at a certain level. I mean, there are a lot of people in this world that got caught up in situations like you that were never given a second chance. So, I mean, look, you
Fair.
could look at things from a positive standpoint or a negative standpoint. At the end of the day, you just got to play better. And I'm a big fan of Deshaun Watson, and I want him to play well, but he has not since he's been in Cleveland. He's got to change that this year.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You know, some fans that have defended Deshaun Watson here said, well, all that matters is wins. The stats don't matter. Well, of course, all that matters is wins. Every team says all that matters is wins. But the better to some degree, the better the stats are by the quarterback, the more likely you are to win. The teams with the bad quarterbacks and bad quarterback stats don't win. So, yeah, when the Browns traded 3 first-round picks plus and paid him $260 million guaranteed, they expected him to play like at least a Pro Bowler, if not an All-Pro, and he hasn't come anywhere close to that.
And Adam, the thing that kind of magnifies, the situation is the performance of Joe Flacco. Same coordinator,
right.
Same system, same supporting cast. That offense looked completely different when Flacco became the quarterback, especially in the passing game. So I think if you have a candid conversation with Deshaun, he knows, he has to play better. And I don't know how well he knows Ken Dorsey. I know there's a new offensive system going in, a lot of new faces on the offensive side of the staff. So, there's going to take some familiarity. It's one of the reasons, and this is not just a Cleveland Brown thing, I don't get with the shortened preseason why the starters don't play more.
Yeah. It is weird. The Browns, that's kind of been their MO with Kevin Stefanski, that they don't play guys too much. I can understand not playing Nick Chubb coming off a knee injury, certainly. Right. But with all the rust that Deshaun Watson has had, he's played 11 games in the last 3 years. You'd think, he is playing supposedly in the third game, but I am surprised. You're surprised that he hasn't played. He didn't play the first game. He's not playing the second game. You would play him if it were you?
If I was a head coach, or if I was an owner, because if I was an owner, you guys are going to do what I say. I'm the head honcho. Yeah. Football is about execution. Execution, to me, is much more likely to happen on a consistent basis when there's a lot of familiarity. And that's why in game 1 of the preseason, I would play my starters for the first series. I want them to see what it's like to have a top 10, top 11 scripted plays, or to come out with a plan against a defense, to go out there, see how important it is to get a first down, to extend that drive. Second game, we play the first half. I want my offense to see what it's like to come to the sideline. Where do you sit? What kind of adjustments are we going to make? How does the coach want to handle quarterback communication? How does the quarterback communicate? Third game, we're going to play the first half and the first drive of the second half, because I want my offense and defense to see what it's like to go in at halftime, make adjustments, maybe have a different plan going out in the second half than we did the first. See what it's like to go in. What do you need to do? How much time do you have at halftime to change clothes, shoes, do whatever you need to do, and get guys prepared for that, because it's not the same group of 11 guys. Just because Nick Chubb knows where Stump Mitchell used to like him to sit, doesn't mean that he knows where Deuce Staley wants him to be.
Good point.
Just because who was the coordinator last year for you guys? I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Alex Van Pelt.
Alex Van Pelt liked to talk to Deshaun, during this part of the in-between drives. Ken Dorsey may have a different, protocol. So the only way to find that stuff out is to have guys play.
Shaun, it's a great point. I do want to switch to the defense, though. I'm curious. Last year, the Browns brought in Jim Schwartz, and they went from a defense that really struggled, and they added some talent. It's not fair to just give all the credit to the coach, but certainly last year they were one of the best defenses in football. They fell on their face against Houston in the playoff game. One guy who made the biggest jump is JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who as a rookie was okay. His second year, I don't know do you know DeQuell Jackson well?
Mm-hmm.
So DeQuell used to be a regular on my other show, And he, to the point after year 2, he was like, I don't even know if JOK can play in the league. And then last year with Jim Schwartz, he was a top 10 linebacker, and the Browns just paid him, gave him a 3-year extension today. How important is that, the development to have, because they already had a stud in the D-line with Myles Garrett and a stud in the secondary with Denzel Ward, to get that, other guy in that third unit? How important was that, and how good do you think he is?
Well, first of all, shout out to my guy DeQuell, Seminole High School, Pinellas County, in the building. Yeah, that's my dude. As much as people think being successful in the NFL is about talent, 40% of it is fit. There are players that have certain skill sets that will never flourish in certain schemes, but have Pro Bowl caliber production in others. And I think this is an example of Jim Schwartz finding the right fit for this particular player and him excelling when put in that situation. The example I always use is Dwight Freeney just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Tony Dungy, Tampa 2, 4-man front, gives those defensive linemen an opportunity to rush the quarterback on all third downs. Not a blitz-heavy team. Going to play a lot of base defense. Freeney can get off. What if Freeney would have went somewhere where they played a 3-4? Right. And Freeney had to try and be a stand-up outside backer. We probably wouldn't know who Dwight Freeney was. So, I mean, the fit matters. And good job by Schwartz of identifying the talent and being creative enough in his scheme to utilize that talent. And I think that's what separates coordinators, not to get long-winded with you, Adam, but the great coordinators don't have a system. They have schemes that they like that they can adjust based on the personnel available. Then you have other guys who they just got a system. Right. It's my system, it works. If it ain't working, that means we don't got the right players.
It's a great point. That is an excellent point. And I wonder, in that vein, do you think, because it always seemed like Justin Fields was a bad fit in Chicago, do you think in Pittsburgh he'll be a better fit, or was it another team that would have benefited? I mean, do you have any faith that Justin Fields could be a starter in the league?
Absolutely. If you're going to develop a young quarterback, Chicago showed you how not to do it. Yeah. 2 head coaches, 3 coordinators, never gave him the supporting cast that they're giving Caleb Williams. You think about who Justin played with. I mean, come on. They drafted Justin in the high in the first round and signed Andy Dalton and told Andy Dalton he was going to be the starter. Remember Andy Dalton's press conference? It's my time. Yeah. Why do you spend a first-round pick on a quarterback and you're going to make him sit behind Andy Dalton? Come on. That don't make any sense. So I think it's a much more stable situation in Pittsburgh. If he beats out Russ, I mean, to me, Russell Wilson's the most underappreciated quarterback in the last 20 years. Like, people have no idea how productive and successful Russell Wilson has been because for some reason they dislike him greatly now.
Yeah, it is weird.
Do you think Russ is a guy that now, I think his second year in the league, went to the Super Bowl and beat Peyton Manning? Third year in the league, went back to the Super Bowl. If they run the ball on the goal line, they beat Tom Brady and the Patriots. They decide to throw it. It gets in it. So, I mean, Russ is career trumps 90% of the guys starting at quarterback currently in the NFL. So, if Justin beats out Russell, I think Pittsburgh has a huge upgrade at quarterback based on what they've had since Ben Roethlisberger left. And, if T.J. Watt can stay healthy, man, they're dangerous, especially if they get this Brandon Ayuk trade done.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that pans itself out. I mean, the Niners probably would have rather traded him to the Browns because at least they could have gotten Amari Cooper in that deal. I don't know what wide receiver they're getting from the Steelers. But I wanted to wrap it up with, you mentioned Baker Mayfield. I've been accused of running Baker Mayfield out of town here in Cleveland because I'm someone who believes that in this current NFL, that you can't win with an average quarterback. I think you used to be able to. I don't think you can anymore. Listen, I know Baker had a really good year last year. I gave him his credit, no doubt. But I think there's a limit to Baker, in my opinion. I think he's a quarterback that can't win you a Super Bowl. Is that unfair?
Yeah, I think it's unfair. I would put Brock Purdy and Baker Mayfield's talent on par with each other. And Brock took San Francisco to, the Super Bowl, and you can make a legit argument that San Francisco probably should have won that game. What I would say about Baker is, I do a lot of mentoring. I tell guys sometimes you can meet the right woman and it'll be the wrong time in one of y'all life and the relationship won't work.
Sure.
To me, being the number one pick, going to Cleveland, a franchise star for quarterback, was too much too soon for Baker. He wasn't mature enough to handle the superstardom, to balance the off-the-field projects with the on-the-field development. And because he's kind of been a chip-on-his-shoulder athlete, what makes him confident started to come off as cocky.
That's true.
And I think him failing in Cleveland is why he's successful now in Tampa. He really had to take a step back, kind of self-analyze. I think he has a better understanding of what his talents are capable of, what he can't do. And, that's why I think he's had success in Tampa. So we'll see if it's sustainable. But sometimes, man, listen, superstardom, it could be a gift and a curse. And I think it was a curse for him.
Man, it's good. I'll tell you what, if Deshaun Watson does not play well this year and Baker has another good season, fans are going to lose their minds.
Irony in that, right?
Oh, my God.
Because when you walk in the mall and you see Baker, it makes you think, I can play NFL football. When you walk in the mall and you see Deshaun Watson, you're like, okay, I probably can't make it in that sport. So for Baker to be playing at the same level as Deshaun, if not better, I know that's frustrating. But hopefully Deshaun gets it, man. Got a good supporting cast, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Njoku at tight end. You got a good group of running backs, especially when Chubb. Shout out to my guy Jerome Ford, one of my kids from down in Tampa, Florida.
Nice.
They got good talent, man.
Yeah. It's funny. Let's wrap up with Ford since you know him. Last year he was criticized. I think we were all a little critical of him. We were like, he's not that good. But then I was thinking about it in the offseason. I'm like, yeah, he didn't look that great because we're comparing him to Nick Chubb. We're used to looking at Nick Chubb, who's like, if he stays healthy and can play another 5 years, could be a Hall of Fame back. I mean, that's the kind of numbers he's put up. And so I kind of scaled it back, and I said, compared to the average running back in the NFL, he was pretty good. Like, he was pretty good. I think it's the same thing we've done here with Jedrick Wills. It's like, well, he took over for Joe Thomas, and Joe Thomas never made a mistake at left tackle. And this guy makes some mistakes. Well, most tackles make some mistakes. Joe Thomas is the unusual one. So when you're comparing him to the best, it's hard.
Adam, we talked about talent and fit earlier.
Yeah.
If Jerome Ford was in Miami with that offense that Coach McDaniel's running, he'd be 1,000-yard rusher and probably have double-digit touchdowns. Just because their scheme puts those guys in the open. And what skill set does Ford have that a lot of guys don't have? He's fast. He can run. Yeah. If you put him behind the line of scrimmage like Chubb, and you think he's going to run in there and, car crash 15 times a game, that body isn't built for that. You don't see him lifting the whole weight room like Chubb. Like, Chubb is a rare bird.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. Shaun, great stuff, man. Thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. See you during the season.
Great chatting with former NFL quarterback Shaun King with some interesting comments on Deshaun Watson. He said if you got Deshaun in an honest moment, he thinks Deshaun would admit he's not been any good here. That's fair. That's all we're trying to say. Doesn't mean he can't turn it around. I disagree with him on the Baker Mayfield, but, hey, he played in the NFL. I didn't. We'll find out if he's right. He's a believer in Baker Mayfield. He's a former Buccaneer. He thinks Baker's really turned around his career in Tampa. Certainly Baker had a good season last year. We'll see if he can follow up on it. He's been one good year, one bad year so far in his career. We'll see how it turns out this season. All right, thanks to Max and Tim for producing. Thanks to all of you for watching. Please hit the like. Please subscribe. Trying to get to 5,000 subscribers before the start of the NFL season, the 1-year anniversary of the podcast being on YouTube. We're about 200 and change shy of 5,000 YouTube subscribers to the Bullpen. I'll be on live tomorrow, Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. 2 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you join me for that live. Until then, we'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by BetRivers. See you, everybody.